Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the WGLNA. I am Andre Gray Torpangcho, and joined alongside my good friend, Randall Rookhill Holcomb. Randall, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic now that you're here. Guys, if you notice, this isn't Clutch, this is Gray Torp.
This is not Clutch.
Yeah, you are not, in fact, that tall.
No.
But
no one's as tall as Clutch. No one's as handsome as Clutch. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try my best, man.
It is great to have you back, though. It's been so long.
Thanks, bud. It's actually been a year since the last time I casted. So that means I have a year of pent-up just love to come back here, cast some World of Tanks with my good friend Randall Holcomb. Excuse me.
You wanted to throw Rookhill in there, didn't you?
I know. I did want to throw Rookhill
like the
in there.
full title, that would have done it.
But man, I am so excited, and we have a lot of great matches for you tonight. But we also had a lot of great matches last week. Let's take a look at the last week's scores, as we did have two broadcasts.
Yeah, Full Potato and Simply Irresistible. That was a 5-4 in favor of Simply Irresistible. I Love Lamp, Hammer Time. Hammer Time played very well, taking that one 5-2. Simple Tankers completely stomped Timeout 5-0, and much the same with the Cunninghams versus Penguin Mafia.
You know, it's a new kind of matchup system, a new style. We are in an assault mode, and I have to draw attention to the Cunninghams because this is a team that came onto the scene pretty fast, learned very fast, and now we have this new system. And again, they're learning very fast, and they always impress me time and time again. I'm really looking forward to watching them in the future for this league.
There are a few other teams out there, though, that are looking very good based on what we saw in the past. Some teams like Noble have come up and are looking much stronger than last season.
That's right. Along with those matches, we did have unbroadcasted matches. Let's just take a recap and see what happened with those.
Yeah, so Fun Gaming versus Victoria's Secret was rather close, 5-3. It was a really good match. Next, RBIS versus Elevate Bernal Empires. That's Bernal Empires is renamed as Elevate now. RBIS took that 5-0. Simp took top tier 5-2. And Roulette versus Noble was Noble taking out Roulette.
Crazy, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's a Season 4 winner. You expect them to be a big favorite going into Season 5. And it's the new system, man. A lot of crazy things can go on. And we saw some crazy moments last week. Let's take a look at our first moment. It is Full Potato versus Simply Irresistible to start us off.
Yep, and we have Full Potato defending right now against Simply Irresistible, who put pressure on the cap. And I love the move by Full Potato. They split their forces a little bit, take a risk, and send one tank to stop the cap. The rest go after the group which is screening, which is kind of meant to distract and keep the rest of Full Potato away. And with the last fraction of a second, they reset, while still taking the fight to the south with a huge overmatch at that point. They salvage it, they get the lead, and they just take it home from there.
You know, with the old 7x42, I feel like it was very linear with the meta. It was very linear with what you can do, your win conditions. It's either you're capping really fast or you're killing everybody's tanks. But here we see, well, we're going to cap a little bit, and then let's get a favorable engagement. Things change a lot more dynamically. That's very cool, in my opinion. The other highlight that we have is the Cunninghams versus Penguin Mafia. Now, I've already talked about the Cunninghams, and again, we see great tanking coming out of these players.
Yeah, we have two players coming back to the Cunninghams. That's Militant 83 and Dodoma, and between the two of them, they completely destroy Penguin Mafia in this 2v2. We've got Dodoma playing an excellent T49 in the high ground. Makes it so we've got Militant with an advantage, and he's able to take out Blaze. Just 1 second, and boom, there he goes. RU251 shouldn't have won that without the T49 helping out in that situation. Dodoma does an excellent job, then is able to get Scrublet, dodges that shell, follows it up because of the long reload, and is able to finish it off.
I mean, time and time again, we've seen Dodoma play excellently in the WGLNA, and here again, he's showing that he knows how to turret break other tanks, as Clutch would say.
Yeah.
He really utilizes just the resource of looking at someone, and Dodoma, a bright future for the young lad, let me tell you. Our last and final highlight is going to be Simple Tankers, and man, they make things look simple, but I'm telling you, when you're in that tank, it is not.
No, we've got a T54 lightweight that's Pub Whisperer right down range, and he's moving in. Right, perfect timing, and is just going to get kill after kill on the move. Gets two, just getting into the fight, and the same one at the same time. Unknown one in the IS3 is holding his ground. Pub Whisperer just completely tears apart the remaining members of Timed Out, and Simple Tankers makes Timed Out look just not that great.
Yeah, I mean, that's a skill, right? To move in at the right time or to even run away. And I know we always talk about, you know, teams knowing when to really pull the trigger and then them waiting it off so, like, too long. It's a really, really difficult skill to obtain, I would say, and especially in this new assault style, it's going to be even harder. A lot of times it's going to be pushed on you a lot faster. But Rookhill, as always, you always teach us something. You always impart some wisdom to us. What are you going to explain to us this week?
All right, so we have Full Potatoes Fat Crobe to explain fight or flight this week. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Greetings and welcome. I'm Randall Rookhill Holcomb. This is Fat Crobe from Full Potato, and he's going to be telling us about fight or flight, the basic human instinct, and how it applies to World of Tanks. Go ahead and introduce us to the subject for me.
Yeah, so basically fight or flight is, in World of Tanks, it's basically when you want to retreat or when you want to push into the enemy team, how you do that effectively.
Okay, so how do we decide? How do we decide when it's time to attack and when it's time to leave?
Well, okay, I pulled up a replay for you. It's a match. I'm playing in a T-62A on Murmanovka.
Magical Forest?
Yeah. Currently, I'm fighting on the east side of the map, and as you can see, they have way more enemy tanks than us, and all my teammates are getting fairly low on hit points. The E4 just died, the T-57 just died, so I'm retreating right now, and I'm gonna try to get to a better position so I can still fight at the same time as retreating.
Yeah, because this flank is falling apart.
Yes,
it's
falling
a
apart.
lost cause. You'd be just as dead as the rest of them if you
Yes.
stuck around. And you can see the rest of your team, the other two guys with you, are trying to fall back. Of course, you seem to be a little bit ahead of that. You're going just a few seconds sooner, and it looks like you've made a decision at the right time.
Yes.
So clearly, you picked up on something a little bit sooner, and were able to judge this quickly. So I
Yes.
guess being able to judge the situation, if it's a loss or a win, when the fight happens, if you can, the sooner you can do that, the better, right?
Yes. The two main points are how is the fight going, how healthy are your teammates compared to the enemy team, or how many tanks do you have against compared to the enemy team. So with these two factors, you can decide if you should run away or fight, basically.
Okay. I think that covers much of fight or flight, the basic human response. Is there anything else we need to say to kind of sum this up and close it?
Well, never forget to go full potato, guys.
Full potato.
Full potato.
Yes. Sure. Thank you, Fat Crobe, and thank you for watching. I'll see you on the battlefield.
Never go full potato, Randall.
Wasn't he so much fun?
Never go full potato. Yeah, he's awesome, man.
Yeah, Fat Crobe's a really cool guy to hang out with.
Yeah, definitely so. I do have to say, though, we have very different play styles as, I mean, I play the much superior IS-3, not like a T-32 or something like that.
Okay,
so
yes,
I can just go forward, don't have to worry about running away. Anyway, our matches for tonight, we're going to start off with RBIS versus Top Tier. Very interesting matchup to begin with.
Yeah, definitely RBIS is favored. Top Tier shouldn't do as well, at least by everyone else's ratings, but the Top Tier could surprise us and give us a really solid match.
It's actually very difficult to judge. Not only are we in week 2, where there's a lot of adaptation, a lot of learning. This is a new style, so people got to see large samples last week. But also, it's Top Tier played up against Simp, and their other team they played up against was Roulette. Those are some of the hardest teams to play against right there in the beginning.
I'll take that point. That is very, very true. Top Tier had a hard time last week. This time, it's against RBIS, though, who is another top contender. I guess this is their chance to prove that they may belong in that tier of play.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, I think anything can happen still, but of course, RBIS is probably going to be the favorite going into this matchup. Our next matchup of the day is going to be Fun Gaming versus Elevate, of course, former Bernal Empires. This is another matchup where I think could actually go either way. Fun Gaming, I did watch one of their matches. Only one of them were broadcasted so far. They looked a little bit shaky, but they were able to take a win off of Victoria's Secret.
Yes, there is that. I think Fun Gaming looks kind of like a midway team right now. They're still figuring it out. I think their play style in previous seasons hasn't transitioned well to the new style. They defend well, but they never attack nearly as well as that. And then Elevate has always been an aggressive team. So when it comes to defending, I'm always feeling less confident.
But here's the thing. Elevate, I mean, I'm glad you said they were aggressive because they'll be defending and still be aggressive. And that's something that I feel a lot of people would think it's unnecessary, but it opens up a different win condition. Normally you can win with, just stopping them, or you can kill their tanks altogether. But now you can bring on the pressure, and it's something that people don't expect at all. Our third matchup of the day will be Roulette versus Victoria's Secret. Of course, we just talked about Victoria's Secret, but man, Roulette, another top contender, but we've seen they're mortal.
Yes, they haven't been performing as well as we would have expected them as the champions of last season. They've made some changes. They picked up Soviet, which I thought would turn out as a more explosive opening to their season, but I think they're getting used to each other.
Yeah, definitely takes a little bit of time to just get that team spirit going together, really get the groove, the mojo. But I still think Soviet is an excellent addition. And they are Season 4 finals, and you would think they're going to be, 6-0 going into the Season 5, but it looks like the new format is really shaking things up, and I love this new meta switch. Of course, Victoria's Secret kind of on the downslide, but anything can happen in week number 2.
Yeah, they're the team that can counter another team out very, very easily.
Exactly. And our last and final matchup of the day will be Simp versus Noble. No doubt the marquee matchup of tonight.
Yes, this is Simp, the team that has performed so well every season. I mean, as far as teams left in the league that you got a chance to be so involved with when you were just doing it every night commentating. Yep. Simp is one of the remaining teams in the league. Noble, formerly Googly Bobbers, was a crazy, crazy team. Absolutely, hold my beer tactics was what we said they would do.
Yeah, I mean, they're both 2-0. If you look at who Noble just beat last week, it's Roulette, which is the big one, and then Fun Gaming, which we've talked about is on and off. But beating Roulette right away really makes a statement, I would say, and it really shows that they can play not only at the caliber of tanking, but also the strategic level. Simp, we did see a couple of, I would say, weird decision-making against Elevate when they did play, especially the first map on Runeberg. We saw just a really weird commitment to the Delta Village. It means maybe their strategical play isn't all together there. I'm not saying it's bad by any means, but
I think that like everyone else, they're figuring things out.
Exactly.
And they are still a step ahead of most teams, but there is room for improvement on everyone, and Simp is one of those teams that can still make steps and strides to get better.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, those are the matchups for today. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, the first match of the day, RBIS versus Top Tier. Don't go anywhere. You're watching WGLNA.
During the off-season, we made some roster changes. We had to say goodbye to our close teammates, and we have 3 new members, which are SPG's Master, Callis, and Spencer. And we've been plateauing together and enjoying strongholds and team battles to improve our teamwork. Although we used some kind of tricky strategy for the first season, which was season 3, most of our games during season 4 was based on our teamwork and player skill. So I think we're gonna keep using our strength to beat enemy, and in that way I think we can easily catch other teams off guard. I can say that it's impossible to be in top 5 team for both seasons if we relied on nothing but just tricky strategies. I believe that our player skill is at the top level of the North American server, and also we are confident that we can compete internationally too with our skills.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the WGLNA. I am Andre Greator Pengsho, joined alongside Randall Rootkill Holcomb. We want to remind you guys to stay in the conversation, twitter.com/WGLNA and facebook.com/WGLNA.
And don't forget the question of the day, guys. It's going to be about which team will distinguish themselves from the crowd tonight. Which one of those teams? Is it going to be because of a player? Is it because of a play style that one of these guys is going to really just break away from the herd tonight? Tell us. It's not you know,
Randall,
analyze this in
I
three
have
paragraphs?
a team. I have a team.
You have a team.
I
Okay.
have a team. It's Noble.
Why Noble?
Noble, you know, I like the fact that they were able to take out the Season 4 finalists, or Season 4 champions from last season. But on top of that, I think they've displayed a real sense of understanding. I think, obviously, for them to be able to beat Roulette, they showed that they have the tanking equipment to really do that. And I think the Simp matchup in general is going to be really, really good. And Simp showed more mistakes than Noble has, to me personally. So I really think they're going to be the team to watch out for.
You know, I tend to agree with that. Noble does look like somebody who's not quite obvious champion or obvious like top tier, but they could sneak up there.
That's right. And, you know, I'm obviously showing a little bit of bias. I like underdogs in general, but Simp, I think, going into that matchup is the favorite. I think overall they win more, but anything can happen. As I said, the Assault just style brings about a really, really cool like sense of learning. So now it's not only tanking, but getting your strategy, but how fast you can get your strategies together. That's a new resource that people aren't used to having, that time limit in understanding the game.
That is a really interesting point. I hope we can explore that more and more tonight.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out. We have the face-off ready between RBIS and Top Tier. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Doing all right.
Good.
All right, we've got Sella and Rude Awakening. How is it going? Okay, so let's start with Sella. RBIS, you guys have started off so incredibly strong this season. What is allowing you to transition so strongly into the beginning of this season?
Well, I think you know, we practice less, so I think that's helped us maintain focus on, you know, important things like the campaign and stuff.
So you're spending your nights in Clan Wars right now?
Yeah, pretty much. Or, you know, playing, you know, CS:GO or whatever. For some people.
Now, do you think like just the team immersion is a much better route to go? I mean, a lot of these guys, I've heard a wide spectrum of, you know, just go and play, or, you know, they come out with this like concrete strategy where it's like, if A equals B, then we're going to do C, if not D, et cetera, et cetera.
I think the more people practice, you know, people get all hyped up and focused on tanks and make this to be too much of a serious business kind of thing. You know, we kind of try to have fun and, you know, enjoy ourselves, and I think that works out better.
Definitely so, and it definitely shows that on the battlefield, and it's kind of transformed into some big wins for you guys so far. We do want to ask Top Tier, how, you know, you guys have had a rough start so far. It's been, well, I would say very impactful, but it's also some of the top two teams in the league right now. How has that really impacted your team as of now?
I think we started off extremely well, actually. We played well. Our team grew. We practiced more. We figured out what we did wrong. I wasn't there for the first two games. I had a conference in Orlando, but my team really came together. They played really well. Everyone was very positive about everything. And I keep saying it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. So we're looking to finish strong, and maybe today is the day we start our winning streak for the rest of the season.
So you being back, that's the factor that's going to change everything?
I hope it will help. I think that our team is extremely strong. We had two different callers on day 1 and day 2 of last week. They did extremely, extremely well. They held the team together. The team played well. The team was together, and they were positive amongst everything that happened. Even though we lost, we had a big lead against RU, but you know, some things didn't just come together. Little tiny minor tweaks, and we'll be fine.
Well, really great to hear about that. We're looking forward to your matches. Do you gentlemen have any words for each other?
Good luck. Let's have fun.
I hope you guys play Goonswarm.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Good luck in your matches, and we'll see you on the battlefield.
The pause at the end.
I
Right
know.
there, just like, should I?
I mean, ordinarily, I should probably ask them, but I just want a fight to start, you know? Because that's how it always begins. Why are you talking over me, Randall?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, you
I'm
should
sorry.
back down.
Back
down, kid.
I'll just be over here.
See, that's how fights start. You got to have a little bit of drama. This is TNT, ladies and gentlemen. Come on.
Fair enough, fair enough. I think that will happen. But let's get towards talking about this match real quick.
Yep.
Between these two teams, Top Tier, They've got somebody who's important back. Rude is back.
That's a great amount of confidence, too. We got to mention that. I mean, he said, we played well. There was a lot of things that we could have done to, you know, turn the tides a little bit. They had an advantage on RU. So anything could happen at this point. As I keep saying time and time again, anything can happen because of the format, because of how people learn, how people feel cohesive. And honestly, if we have RBIS just going into this a little bit nonchalantly, it could be bad.
And actually, I've been able to talk with Jackie Rudo, who is under the name Amanda Hugginkiss this season. Actually, if we can get a chance, I'll show you the roster real quick. He is actually registered as Amanda Hugginkiss. See that number 2 on RBIS?
I saw.
That's Jackie Rudo.
I remember.
And
I watched.
Yeah, the huge surprise when he showed up. And with that, RBIS is such a casual team this season. And I learned that by talking to various members. I was like, all right, where is Amanda going to be in all of this? Why is he telling me he's going to be a bench player, but he played both times? They're just going to show up, and they have the natural skill and synergy to make it work.
Yep. Of course, on top tier, the other side, we have Rude Awakening, Callus. A lot of guys, actually, that we've seen before in the past, so a lot of veterans coming out here.
All right, well, the first battle is going to begin. The countdown has begun. Let's get into battle, and I'll introduce you guys to what tanks they'll be bringing. And
all right, Rukil. Let's do it.
Looking at this, I think we've got RBIS, the blue team, defending, and they will be bringing a T-32, two 1390s, two RU-251s, and two M41 Walker Bulldogs. Very standard strategy for this map. On the other side, top tier, we'll be bringing two 1390s, three RU-251s, and two T-29s. So they're trying to put their strengths in different categories. You can see those T-29s will be playing hull-down games a lot, but they're not going to be quite as good as a T-32. They're still excellent in hull-down, and they still get the same guns that the T-32 gets with gold. The 90mm I learned, and I'd forgotten this fact, you do get a 90mm cannon on the T-29, and I should probably jump to one of those. There we go. That 90mm is not the exact same 90mm that you get on a Pershing or a T-32. It's actually the one just before that.
Okay.
But the gold shells perform just as well. It's the AP that doesn't do quite the same job.
Yeah, I definitely know the T-29s are some of the best Tier 7 tanks for sure, as I've dealt with them a lot. Oh, Amanda Hugginkiss does take a little bit of damage in the beginning phase. Both teams have opted to stay on the west side of the tracks. Very interesting way to play this out. Remember, there are two different places that you can cap, and now pressure being put onto Anowo.
Yeah, he's going to go down really early, and that's the M41 Walker Bulldog lost for RBIS. And if you look, there's something we've added to the mods, and that's going to be a hit point counter. We've got 7.8k hit points on top tier side with 6.5 left on RBIS. This is going to allow us to better judge the situation by judging the amount of hit points both teams has, because it can get very confusing for both us and anyone else watching what the actual state of both these teams as far as hit points go.
Definitely so. And we have a situation where it's just sniping wars. In the center is top tier, and all the way on the west side is going to be the rest of RBIS. Very interesting, as with these light tanks, you don't really get the best accuracy. I mean, they are a little bit more accurate, the RU-251s, than the AMX 1390s, but they're not entirely accurate as something like a T-69.
I certainly have to agree. And now we're actually going to get a push in. Ox Mathis is moving in on Rude Awakening, and he's in there mostly alone. The follow-up is coming in just a moment, and this will give him kind of a surround. RBIS is going to be surrounding their opponent, and there goes Rude Awakening in exchange for Ox Mathis.
I love how top tier did this. They started the cap to force this engagement, and now look, all these tanks have to run past the tanks that are in the center. Coolhammer and Backsass able to get some back shots, but will they be able to stop the cap in time? 3 seconds left, 2 seconds, and they do get the reset.
All right, but now they are walking into a bit of a fire line. Akiyama will go down initially. There is support fire coming from the north, and Gabriel is now very low, along with Sella, just getting to the fight damaged.
Man, top tier played this out so well, really punishing RBIS for staying so far on the west side and being able to almost screen the cap a little bit better. But we do have it 3 tanks against 3 tanks, but the HP advantage, as you can see, going to the red team top tier.
Yes, and now with the follow-up, this can go back and forth. It depends on how Stella and Miamigo try and stay alive, and I think Amanda Hugginkiss, being a T-32, the armor that he has, and also being able to use this slight hull down, could get some hit points back into the favor of RBIS and kind of cinch this one.
You know, it is a little scary, though, at the same time, Rukil, because just one 1390 can probably clean up 2 of these tanks very, very quick. Actually, all 3 of the tanks, since it's 2 1390s with very low HP and a single T-32, which is probably 2 shots away from dying. So this is not the best spot for top tier, or excuse me, for RBIS.
Yeah, but you have to get that 1390 in range.
That's true.
1390s are not the best sniping tank. We could see E63 get a hit onto Amanda in a moment. He's gotten some high ground. With that, he could fire down into that T-32, get some hits. But I think Amanda has decided to move into a safer position. This is a much harder shot for E63.
Ooh. It looks like he was able to, or excuse me, Callus is able to get some shots onto Amanda Hug and Kiss. Oh, 479, he was tracked. A bounce on Callus. Very, very crazy that 1390 is able to bounce.
Yeah, it happens at range like that. There's a really nice slope on the front of that 1390. Sometimes you get bounces. It is a little crazy.
I hate myself when I bounce off of any French tank, man.
Because there's no armor. There's paper, pretty much.
Exactly.
But you'd be surprised what armor can do. Now E63 is moving in, and this is a smart move. You were talking about this before, and this is the solution. Get right in close.
That's right.
There's a distraction, pulls the gun away, looking at something else, focused on another more important target, doesn't notice E63.
You don't want to trade far distance with the T-32 when you have a 1390. You're not going to pen nearly as much, and the T-32 will pen you so much, so you have to commit to that position. Now it looks like blue team RBIS is just going to run away. But remember, the clock is actually against them. Oh, no, it's for them. I'm sorry. So all they have to do is keep top tier in some sort of jam and some sort of pickle, stop them from capping, and they will be able to win this. But it's tough. 3 tanks against 2 tanks. Both teams are very low in hit points. It can go anybody's way because 1390s burst down very quickly.
And what they need to do, RBIS, to win this one is they need to make that distance work for them. They need to stop, have their opponent moving, and be able to start the engagement while their opponent is still attempting to close the distance. Unfortunately, they haven't done that so well, and I think that once top tier gets in here, it's not going to go as well.
Another balance, 85. Excuse me, and down he goes. Amigo does. Cella's the last one available, and 3 tanks are going to swarm in. There's no chance that he's able to kill all of them, and down he goes. Top tier taking the first blood in this best of 9 matchup. Really, really cool battle going on right there. Yeah. Man, top tier said in the beginning that they felt really good in the first 2 matches, and they've shown that they're looking very, very strong. Remember, this is our first time we get to see them on broadcast, so we haven't really been able to gauge their skill, but I think they performed perfectly. Segmented the map, made sure that they had ease control, and just waited patiently for their opponents to come while they capped out.
Yeah, and I was surprised how well it worked out because of it seemed chaotic fashion in which they were able to lay out the situation, putting their tanks on cap. That one tank in the far north, I think that was Callus, was I with that? And this, whatever this was, because that's 2 tanks left behind in a situation that is just bad for them, right? Whoever stays behind is going to be held up just long enough to the point where getting to the cap will be an actual journey. But the tanks that ran past, you can see taking damage. Every single one of them took a few hits on the way there. And the focus fire from top tier, I think, is what allowed them to handle this so well. Otherwise, I would have thought they would have just lost the hit points.
And look at the plan change here, too. I mean, they went from capping to saying, hey, guys, get off cap. Let's go into a more advantageous situation. Either commit to it, get the full surround, or do something else, retreat or something. But I love that, the plan change. And they expected all these things. As you said, Callus all the way in the north side, he was there to expect that big attack coming in. And I just love the fact that they put 3 tanks up on that cap instead of the conventional 1, and then you wait. Because 1 tank, it's not going to cap fast enough. And when you do that, you segment a complete tank from realizing its actual DPM. And if that's an RU-251 or even a T-29 at that point, that's a lot of damage that you're losing.
Yeah, it's one thing about the new format is the cap timer has changed. Instead of being 100 seconds, it is now 120 seconds, which is just long enough that it's very uncomfortable. You can't just sit there and expect a fast cap. You have to kind of make it more secure. You have to really make your opponent start a fight elsewhere on the map to make a cap succeed. It's just, I've seen 1 cap fast that really worked, and that was on Himmelsdorf. I'm going to remember an IS-6 and 2 IS-3s on there. It was one of the off broadcasts, and And it's amazing the thought that it could work. And I believe it was Roulette defending, and they just didn't push in. That's the problem. You have to just push in.
I do have to say one thing, though. As well as Top Tier played that, I have to question a little bit what RBIS was doing going all the way to the west side. I mean, that does seem a little bit weird to me, but time will tell, of course. We'll ask them in another interview. Let's get into game number 2 of this best of 9.
All right. And for the tanks, we've got RBIS defending again. They are the blue team. And they will be bringing that T-32, 2 1390, 2 RU-251, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs. Their same lineup pretty much as last time. Other side, looks like the same thing. 2 1390s, 3 RU-251s, and 2 T-29s. Playing the hull down with those T-29s, and they're going to put more resources into their Tier 8 lights.
Yeah, very interesting. I feel like both styles actually can work on proc. I mean, really, I don't see a clear winner of what they want to do. You just have to realize where your advantages come from, you know? If you're getting, like, the Tier 8s, you want more of those fast engagements, I would say, because obviously get your Tier 8 to dish out the correct DPM. Take advantage of the low penetration or lower penetration and damage of the Tier 7s. Let them matter a lot less. Whereas if you're playing the 2 Tier 7s, obviously you have 2 damage dealers. We want to back them up, maybe have them snipe, get in better positions on hills, on sides and stuff like that, and really try to get the right positioning.
Exactly. And now we've got a situation where we've got that east-west polarization that we saw last time, but the way it works out in the new format as opposed to 742 is you're going to see something a little bit more aggressive from the defending team as they attempt to reclaim this.
Yeah. But again, they pushed over to the west side very, very largely, and really I feel like Top Tier can just sit on the flag cap and wait until the last man, which is unknowable in that anomalable in the M41 Walker Bulldog. Until he crosses over, they're missing a gigantic amount of their damage.
Precisely. Now they are going to group up. This is very standard. That northern group of tanks
I
is
don't know, though. 10 seconds left. They really need to push on this.
They'll go.
North side is pushing up, overmatching the 2 tanks, Spencer and Callus. Look like they're going to go down, but not before taking out at least one of these tanks. Ox Mathis looks like he's very low. It looks like Gabriel went down. Now Ox Mathis finally goes down.
And there's the support fire onto Cap coming from the north. We've got a little crossover. Amanda Hug and Kiss holding off while Unnommable and Sella move in. They are going to lose Unnommable in that, but Sella is able to take out E63, and that's going to stop the Cap. Now we're into a very spread out brawl situation where we've got a 1v1 in the far north. We've got Amanda taking down Coolhammer, and now we've got a 1v1 of a Tier 8 versus a Tier 7 up there.
This 1v1, though, in the north isn't fair at all. Mi Amigo is actually reloading. AMX 1390 takes forever to reload, and now Sella is just going to get ganked.
Surprise,
over
surprise,
here.
though. Amanda is able to put some support in there and bring in a little payback. So that 1v1 in the north ends up nullifying. But Amanda has lost a lot of hit points in order to do that. Now he's at very low. RBIS is in a situation where they've lost yet again.
Yep. I mean, very, very unfortunate, but it's that west side commitment and just completely leaving the east side undefendable. I mean, really, it takes way too long to actually get over there, and by the time you actually make it, you have maybe 5 seconds. You need to put a very fast shot. Hey, when you put that fast shot on, a moving shot, you probably have a 50-50 shot of actually getting that. Yeah. Let's just say 50-50. But now, you know, on average, it takes 2 shots to reset the cap. That's not a situation you want to be in. That's a lot of lost damage that needs to go to other tanks, the more, I guess, the ones that are right in front of you.
Yes, and I want to look at the post-game stats real quick to kind of detail a little bit of what happened that allowed for Top Tier to come ahead, and you see that RBIS falls behind. Now, the top damage dealers are about the same. You can see that between Spencer and Amanda with 2,000 approximately each, but as we go farther and farther down the line, we got 1,700 on the side of Top Tier, but the next tank on RBIS gets 1,100 damage. So you're seeing that tanks are able to deal damage, and that's one of the most important things, just being able to consistently deal damage until you go down.
Yeah, and I want to say that I think the damage is really because of the strategies that we saw, right? Mm-hmm. Like the west side against the east side, and then of course the flag cap coming into play. I feel like Top Tier has put themselves continuously in a situation where they are just putting RBIS in a very uncomfortable situation where they almost get capped out.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the worst situation possible. And ordinarily, I feel like the defenders do have the advantage, but twice now Top Tier has come out on top.
They've put themselves in a situation where they have that defender's advantage, though. They have a side of the map, they have choke points under their control, and their opponent is forced to attack in order to reclaim the cap. They have to put themselves in that situation, and that's where the defender's advantage isn't just side. It's the position you've placed yourself in.
Before we go into the third battle, we want to remind you guys you can bet in Twitch. Of course, you start with 10 points.
Yep.
10 points, and there's a leaderboard. Top 50 get put into a raffle, and from there you get a really, really sick prize. Last time was a $50 Jinx
this week
coupon.
It's,
this one, I'm not sure what it is
codes,
just yet.
I believe.
It's codes.
Yes.
Okay. But, of course, a lot of great stuff. And make sure you guys check that out on Twitch, well, below.
Yep.
Anyway, let's get into game right now. What do we have for tanks, Mr. Rukil?
All right, so sides have swapped. Colors right now, Top Tier is blue, and they will be the defender. They're going to bring two 1390s, three RU-251s, and two M41 Walker Bulldogs. Sorry, that was RBIS. RBIS brings two 1390s, three RU-251s, and two M41 Walker Bulldogs. On the other side, Top Tier, excuse me for that mistake, bringing two T-32s, two 1390s, two RU-251s, and a 5916. So they're going to be bringing a Tier 6, and this is the first time today we're going to get a chance to see that and find where Baxtaz goes. He's going to be scouting the far side, while we have, well, that might not become relevant because
we have a very, very quick cap, or potential cap. It looks like they're going forward to the north side to try to screen this, as there are a lot of blue tanks all the way up into the north, 3 actually to be exact, but Ox Math is taking a ton of damage in this beginning phase in the RU-251.
Yeah, he's down to 471 hit points. That's 2 shells about. That should finish him out. And that's a large disadvantage. You've got Top Tier with a serious hit point lead, and they may have an easier time reclaiming the cap. Spencer's just going to go up and over and put Swin into Ox Mathis. I think he's going to take the trade.
Yeah.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
Definitely so. The cap has been started, 26 seconds remaining. Goonswarm and Baxtaz still have not pushed up. Of course, Baxtaz doesn't matter nearly as much since he is that Tier 6, 5916, but he can do a little pepper damage.
Yeah, and now Cool Hammer and Rude Awakening in the middle of the map are going to start kind of resetting a little bit. They're putting shells into Unknombable, and there he will go down. Down
he goes. Stayed in that center a little bit too long, but he's still trying to force that cap down. Now Sella takes a big shot by the 4 tanks up in the center, and there's a pretty bad overmatch coming into the center. Gabriel Angelos, I think, needs to get in a better position because there's no way he stays on cap for that long.
Yeah, and with the hit points as they are in the very north, you do have a situation where you have 3 Tier 8s versus kind of 4 if Gabriel kind of joins that fight. The middle fight is beginning. Sella does go down to the Goon Swarm along with the T-32s, and the fight should begin. That should be the up and over.
Yep, Amanda Hug and Kiss moving on in, but not going to be able to do enough against 4 tanks. He does take one out, Baxtaz, but that's a 5916. Not going to do much. Gabriel Angelos now going to be gunned down with the north being cleaned up by Top Tier yet again. Top Tier looking in top fashion.
Really are. This is surprising. RBIS is a team that we would have expected to put up a real fight.
If you just look at the stats, small sample size, I know, but 2-0 up against 0-2, you would say the team that is up 2-0 got a steamroll, but it's been the opposite way around. Now 3-0, and I love just the willingness to back up. Now that seems really, really silly, you might think, but all the way in the north side, we saw, RBIS. Excuse me, not RBS, Top Tier just stay up there. They were attacking their opponents, able to take out some tanks here and there, but then backed up until the center could push properly. That's a lot of patience and a lot of really good due diligence and strategy that teams need for this new style.
Yeah, and the difference between the situation in the middle of Prohorovka, between RBIS handling it on the defense and Top Tier handling on the defense, is that when Top Tier was defending, they didn't have anyone kind of shooting from the opposite direction of cap.
Yeah.
We had Top Tier, when they took control of the east side cap, they were putting tanks to the south of the position that tanks in the middle were at, those T-32s that you saw in the last battle, that position. And you could not begin putting pressure on the cap without taking shells into the back of your turret, which is damaging your ammo rack, taking out crew members.
And just increasing your equity of damaging in general. Because normally, I mean, these guys are pros. They're probably like 80% to hit these guys. But if you're hitting from the back, you're closer to like 95% now all of a sudden.
It's easy shots. Just give me shots.
Exactly. And that makes a gigantic difference at the pro level. That's why those vectors are so important. Get as many vectors to attack your opponents as possible. We're going to step into our fourth battle. It's going to be our last one on Prokhorovka for this individual match. Let's get into game.
All right, for the tanks, we will have top tier on the blue team defending. They will have 2 1390s, 3 RU-251s, 2 T-29s. Much the same. They really like those T-29s. On the other side, RBIS, 2 1390s, 3 RU-251s, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs.
Have you noticed that both teams actually have not really, I mean, besides the center, have not really used their T-29s or their T-32 the way you would ordinarily think they would be used? You want them in that hold down position. The center is good for that, but normally it's west versus west that we really see T-29s, T-32s.
Yeah, that
so
slower play is what you're talking about.
But it's been so fast. It's been cap, cap, cap every single game.
Yeah, both teams went for the same strategy.
Yeah.
Blitz the east cap, get control, and then force your opponent to make the bad decision or to make the bad play. Let them make the mistake. Now we're looking at an east versus west polarization, but it's flipped. The defender is now on the east with, oh, look at the T-29's position. This could get kind of, dicey, dangerous. Rude and Coolhammer, T-29s, fine hull down tanks, but they're exposed to that western position of RBIS.
Oh, wow.
And you can see it right now. Coolhammer is probably going to go down.
Yeah, this is not a good position. They are at a stage where they have to just commit to this bowl. And is there any potential for now for RBIS to really take advantage of that?
RBIS has hit points right now, and they can begin moving around in the flanks, but it's a bit late to take advantage and finish off Coolhammer. As you can see, you've got tanks Spencer, for example, in his RU-251 and E63M6, watching one of the approaches which could take out those T-29s, that one weak spot they will always have.
We do see a rotation by RBIS now. They're circling down to the bottom, maybe trying to get, a concave going from, the southwest to the northeast or the mid-east. We're going to find out exactly what their plan is, but Callus might be in a lot of trouble coming up here in the next few moments.
Oh yeah, let's go take a look at him. Oh wow, yes, he is far too deep at this point and could get cut off very easily.
Oh, here we're able to see him, and instantaneously just gets chunked for over half of his life. I don't think Callus will be able to get out of this alive.
That's like 80%, 99 almost. There we go.
He goes. Big mistake coming out here from top tier, trying to get the surround, assuming that RBS was going to stay in that northwest position, but no, there's a lot of rotation coming out here.
And there is a little bit of damage going back and forth. Ox Mathis and Amanda, have taken damage. So there is a little bit there for top tier. They have gotten some damage out there. They can still salvage this. It's not over. But they are very spread out. Bax has, if this continues from RBIS, could go down very soon, especially if he doesn't leave. But RBIS, if they hesitate right now, might not be able to pick him up, as he is getting closer and closer to the rest of his team, the other Tier 8 lights.
We do have to recognize the defender's advantage, though. Even though they're down a tank, you said that a lot of the Amanda Hugginkiss and Ox Mathis were kind of peppered. We do have top tier that are able to hide behind, favorable positions, hide behind buildings, hide behind dead tanks, hide behind the trains.
There's no cover here, though. As Spencer and Bax says, their buildings they had in front of them are completely down.
Oh, okay.
And there goes Spencer. They were completely annihilated. RBIS did not hold their shells. They all fired at the building. They all took it down, and right behind it, there's a tank. Free kill. So now 2 Tier 8s are down, and the hit points are way in favor of RBIS.
Yeah, Ox Mathis will give that extra angle of vector coverage, but just as quickly, I mean, we do see top tier kind of holding down the fort a little bit here. We have the 2 T-29s that are able to hold down, and did we have Amanda Hugginkiss go down?
Yes, we did. Goon Swarm on the other side of the map. Amanda was in the bowl, the traditional bowl in the west.
Yeah.
Goon Swarm blitzed over there, just ran right into him, literally, and killed him.
Oh no, he's up on the top left here.
Oh, sorry, that would have been...
That was Ox Mathis.
Sorry, I got mixed up.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it's my fault. I thought Amanda Hugginkiss, because last time I saw him, I thought he was over there. But apparently he's He's a clever, clever shrew, that Jackie. Still, we have a situation where the hit points are pretty close, 2.9k to 3.2k. Anything can still happen. That's just one shot from any of these tanks. Well, there that goes.
Yeah, that's the T-29 exposing his side to Miamigo, who did not cross over. And that was a poor assumption by Top Tier, or at least by that single T-29 route, that they would all have crossed over and not have kept anyone in the south on that side of the tracks. He pays for that mistake.
Yeah.
Good play by RBIS. This is looking like it could go in their favor, though.
I think so, but they do have to move on this. 2 minutes and 10 seconds left. Remember, if they get down to 40 seconds and they haven't started cap, it's impossible for them to win via cap. So they have to start chasing or putting pressure on their opponents. It is 5 versus 4 right now with a slight HP advantage, but they need to be careful. I love the positioning so far, though, by Top Tier. Backsaz going all the way to the top there, getting a good angle for the cap, or the counter cap, I should say. And, of course, Cool Hammer and E63M6 are in the center. They're going to try to just have a little bit of position and some kiting.
Yeah. Now we've got a press coming in from RBIS. They're just moving everyone up, trying to get a little bit of control, and Miamigo's going to go for Cool Hammer. Fortunately for our Top Tier, he misses a little bit, but they're all going in on E63, taking out that 1390. He does not get all of his shells out. That is incredibly important right
Yes. Goon Swarm has missed a bit. Nomable actually gets taken out by Backsaz all the way on the north side, but again, swarming coming out here. M41 Walker Bulldog just one shot away from dying, but the RU-251 is on cooldown.
Yep, he does have a short reload. He just has to get his shot on target just like that. Takes him down, but he's against Sella and Miamigo now.
Yeah. Oh, and down goes Backsaz. Now Sella, a man hug and kiss, and Goon Swarm, or up against Goon Swarm, excuse me.
And that's it. RBIS. RBIS is going to take it. This is going to be a real match now. I was worried for a minute. RBIS is going to start dropping them all back and forth every time.
It was very worrying. Very concerning for RBIS. But they did put it together, capitalized on the mistake, and especially Callus. I mean, when you go into that bottom, you have to really hope that they're not rotating. And of course, that was a tricky play, I would say, by RBIS to rotate like that and, well, just immediately lose a tank. But
yeah, take a look at this. Now, we were talking about them taking cover, right? This is unfortunately a little contradiction of what you were looking at. See those buildings?
Yeah.
They would usually remain as cover, because most teams would say, no, we're not going to fire at that, wait for him to peek. No.
Crashed into it.
RBIS destroyed all of those buildings.
Oh.
Now, Backsaz did destroy his building, the one slightly to the south of that, completely annihilated. This is RBIS making a really strong, slightly risky decision, because when all of you fire, you're not putting out as much damage, you're just taking out a building with some of those shells.
Yeah.
A little bit of a trade-off.
If you're an autoloader, that means a big deal. The RU-251s, I mean, it still matters because they need to maintain their DPM, but it's easy for them to spring into action and then fall back. Those AMX 1390s, though, as soon as you hit, 2 or 3, you got a lot of times think, do I have to reload at this point because I can't engage for another 40 seconds? It's a really bad situation.
Yeah, it really is. Now, looking at the post-game, you can see Amanda doing very well, 2K on him. The bottom damage dealers, that's the thing you look at. Callus, unable to deal any damage that match, that's what hurts. He doesn't get to survive. And that's a good play on RBIS. That's not so much against Top Tier as...
I would say it's a mistake from Top Tier.
I think it was them doing something intelligent, but their opponent doing a smart move as well. Moving exactly when they would have been expected not to.
It's a polarizing move. It's either really, really good or really, really bad. And in this situation, it's really bad. I'm not saying the strategy overall is bad. It's polarizing, actually, the strategy. But it's in a situation where if they do this one thing, it kind of hard counters Callus and crushes him immediately. And I feel like if Callus lived, that would have been a much, 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 much different game. But as it worked out, RBIS able to take the very quick advantage in the beginning of Game 4, and now we're in battle number 5. It's going to be on steps. Very similar map, I would say, to Proc.
In many ways, yes, but it kind of has been so very different in its approach.
Explain that to me.
Okay.
I know, of course, it changes for Assault, but explain how Steps is really integrated into this new system.
It's been getting 2 real lanes of approach. When you spawn as the attacker, you spawn in the south. Now you can choose to go east or west. Many teams have been choosing to go the generally considered safer route, which is west. And then you make your way north. You have some control over your opponent's cap because they will generally go east. but things can get pretty crazy once you start to begin trying to throw in counter strategies and ignoring the safe strategies for something which is a little riskier but with higher rewards.
Gotcha. I feel like the defenders are very, very advantageous on this map in particular just because it's so easy to stop the cap. And if we go 2-2, we're going to have top tier win the game no matter what. We're going to find out. Let's step into battle number 5 with top tier versus RBIS.
Okay, top tier will be the attackers beginning on steps. RBIS the defenders. RBIS will be bringing a T-32, 2 1390s, 3 RU-251s, and a T-37, that little tier 6 light tank. Now, on the other side, looks like top tier, T-32, 1390, 3 RU-251s, and 2 T-29s. So that is 3 hull-down tanks. And in the last battle, I noticed a few little weaknesses of T-29s that I'd forgotten about. Whereas the T-32 has the nice smaller turret and only has one really big weak point, which is the commander's hatch, and that's not even as big. The T-29 has a spot just above the gun mantlet, which is, I forgot, a weak point. And with heat shells, you can pen it, as long as you hit just above. And then even just above that little weak point, there is some sloped armor, which would cause a bounce, but there's the commander's hatch, and it is a little bit larger than the T-32s. I'd forgotten about those little disadvantages, but the T-29 still performs very well for its tier.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like the T-29s in general being the aggressor because you are going to go into sniping wars a lot more on this map than other maps. But just based on the lineups, the RU-251s, the AMX 1390s, the single T-32, I do feel like they're meant to kind of encircle positions very, very quickly with such a a light-studded lineup. I'm not sure if Steps is going to be the best map for something like that, just because, as I've said before, I mean, I know in general you always have light tanks, but I just feel like when you're being aggressive, you need the slow approach and to take a lot of position more so than to end a battle very quickly.
You need to be able to posture up.
Exactly.
You need those big, beefy, damage-dealing tanks that can bounce a shell.
Yeah.
And they're scary, more than actually dangerous, because a light tank is still dangerous.
That's right. That's right. But if you're the defender, I think it makes a lot more sense to have those T-32s, to have those T-29s, to have that. Well, I guess it's right for both of them, in my opinion.
It's how you employ it, really, because I've seen teams on the defense or something who bring heavily light lineups, or I should heavily light. That seems like a really weird oxymoron, but bring light lineups. The way they employ them can be very correct in staying very mobile and identifying weak points and then taking advantage.
I love this wraparound coming out from top tier. They have 3 tanks, 3 battle buddies trying to get the upper flank. They are moving into the north, but they're going to be greeted by a lot of other enemies.
Oh, and I thought Cello was going to just get evaporated right there, but no. And he's going to find a nice little defilade. Good coverage. Ox Mathis is in a wonderful position, and Goonswarm is going to bounce his first shell. Now we've got a 3v3 engagement there. Coverage from the heavy tanks, the T-29s and the T-32 just behind, that's going to keep them a little safer as they try and play this slight hill game, which is very difficult to see without getting incredibly close.
And even though they are in a position where they're, very close to each other, it still is the sniping war. It still is the poke out, try to attack our opponents, try to pen their opponents. And I feel like even 1390s kind of struggle at that. They really need to commit, but they're looking for the opportunity to commit.
Exactly. Now, we are looking at a weird fight that's going to break out. That 3v3 is kind of become a 2v3.
Yeah, and there's an overmatch in the center as well, as we see Callus, Rude Awakening, Cool Hammer, all of them pushing towards the east side. You can see already a tank going down. And it's actually dissecting the blue team. RBIS is kind of flustered now. We have 2 tanks all the way on the east side and 4 tanks all the way in the center.
That is insane. Carbon Ward's going to go down, and then followed by Gabriel Angelos. This is working out very well for top tier. The T-29s and T-32 have been doing good damage. Positioning by the light tanks has pinned members of RBIS while they were in transit. And it looks like cleanup to me. That's all I expect the rest of this map.
It definitely is. I mean, the tanking by top tier has been top-notch for sure. Mi Amigo will go down, and only three more tanks left for RBIS. Unknowable all the way over on the side. Big problem, I would say, is that he has all of his hit points. Why is that a big problem? It's because you want to be sharing that health pool as much as possible and stop your opponent, or stop your opponents from killing your allies.
Yeah, that's what it was for RBIS. They don't feel so together today. I think that's something we can really point as a problem with their play. It doesn't feel as coordinated as usual.
Need to play more CS apparently, or maybe more World of Tanks, I would say.
Yeah, their very casual approach I think is hurting them today. For top tier, who seems to have really prepared for this match.
I think so. 4-1 for top tier now. We're gonna go into battle number 6 momentarily, but I mean a very convincing win right there. We just saw a disarrayed defending team, I think, on Prokhorovka.
Yeah, they brought a liner lineup.
Mm-hmm.
They had a single T-32 who wasn't able to do serious damage. They were moving around the map, and it didn't feel coordinated. You can see how there are 3 tanks right now from RBIS, sorry, 4 in what you're seeing right now 3, that are in one part of the map, the west, I'll say. But the rest of their team is not anywhere near that. They've got Carbon Ward off in the east, who is not able to lend a hand to that fight. You need those light tanks together, because the point of the RU-251 1390 combo is to find something and just destroy it. Just kill it really fast.
Let's take a look at actually your score screen and really look at who did the damage and what tanks are I guess, performing the absolute best. Because, you know, first off, who did the damage, and then how did they use those tanks?
Okay, so we've got E63M6. We remember him coming up, being a part of that initial assaulting squad from top tier. 8 for 8 shells, 1916 damage. Right behind him, Backstas, the RU-251. This is what I would have expected as top damage.
Oh, yeah.
Right below that, though, Coolhammer in the T29 does good damage. Spencer does good damage. Now, damage blocked by armor is something you look at with these guys. You got 880, and you've got 320, and then 720 from Rude. So they're heavy tanks.
It's pretty good.
They bounced enough shells and blocked enough damage to the point where they could have brought an extra tier 8, and he could have probably just turned himself sideways and taken all of those shells. That would have been the equivalent.
And most importantly, I want to see how the 1390s did on the other side, because I really want to see, like, were they able to put out the damage that they need necessary? Because normally you need that burst with 1390s, or with autoloaders in general, you need that burst. They can do the sniping game, not completely cutting them out, but I feel like the burst is a lot more important.
Okay, 1709, 679. That's the problem that Mi Amigo had. He wasn't able to get into a position where he was going to deal damage comfortably. He was playing these uncomfortable games in a position he didn't intend, and he fires 9 times, gets 3 penetrating shells. He just had a really rough game that time. In previous battles, I've looked at his stats, and he looks more than competent. He looks like a good player. I think this battle is probably a really damaging example for him.
Sure. I mean, it was a sniping war. It's hard to put any 1390 on a map like Prokhorovka and have it be really successful. On top of that, the RU-251 is just so good in general on that map. It has great depression, actually. I think it's better than the T69. We always used to call the T69 a good gun depression type of tank.
Most American tanks are.
Yeah, most American tanks are.
The RU, it's a curious tank, actually,
yeah,
when you raise gun depression, because to the front and to the side, the gun depression is fine. But when you put the gun over the rear, it actually has almost no gun depression because of the engine deck.
Oh.
And so if you're trying to run away from an opponent, but you have hills and different up and down areas like that, you actually run into a situation where your RU-251 is uncomfortable to drive.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're going to go into battle number 6 momentarily. Before we do that, I do have to update you. Right now, we have I Love Lamp that is up 3-0 against Penguin Mafia. Very surprising, I think, result so far. We're going to track the action as it moves forward. But let's step into battle number 6 between RBIS and top tier.
All right. So RBIS, the defenders, the blue team, will be bringing a T-32, 2 1390s, 3 RU-251s, and a T-37. Similar to what they had last time, actually just the same. On the other side, top tier switched it up, and this is something similar to what they brought in previous seasons, in a way. The IS-6. This is a tank that top tier introduced to the league and made work. 1390, a single one, 3 RU-251s, and 2 T-29s.
Can you explain to me this IS-6? Because, you know, I guess I'm an old school type of guy. I like the IS-3. I don't think it belongs on this map. And then I see an IS-6 and I'm like, wait, what?
You'd immediately think it's a worse IS-3, right?
Yeah. Well, for sure it is.
Statistically, it would
Yeah.
seem so, but it fires slightly faster. Its gun handling isn't beautiful, but with the way accuracy works in this current state of the game, it's not such a bad thing. You have sufficient pen with the gold rounds for light tanks and all that. You can fire some HE at them if you feel like it. I don't think any of the IS-6s do. It brings serious hit points, spaced armor, sloped armor, which works well against heat, which is highly effective against RU-251s. So the point of the tank is to lead the way, make RU-251s nearly ineffective against it.
Yeah.
And so it kind of works to play against a certain strategy or a certain tank style while bringing hit points and some good DPM. It's surprisingly good.
It's so interesting because against light tanks, they're kind of like the counter to each other, right? You say like, oh, they can bounce RU-251 shots, especially with the heat. But at the same time, I mean, RU-251s can blaze by them and turret break them.
Yes.
Or even make it so that they can't even catch them. There's a lot of interesting little tactics that you can do with each other. So I'm just curious on how it's going to end up.
Yeah, it really just makes it more difficult to deal with. It's just an annoying target, very bouncy, and very curious little armor layout because most people are used to IS-3s, but an IS-6 is so rare that you don't get to really practice against it. So while you can pen it, just like Amanda did in the T-32, it still will give you some weird situations if you're not up to date on the tank, you know? For the longest time, players were like, an IS-6, I don't even remember the armor layout of that. I don't remember the crew layout.
Yeah.
All of that stuff.
And that's just like a thing you have to update yourself with. All right, Cap has started though right now. Top tier is sitting on there. It's a very interesting movement that we see. I do feel like RBS threw in a huge gamble doing this gigantic rotation going all the way from the west side to the south side, now to the east side and trying to engage, but they have a great surround coming in here. I do think they have the advantage, but you never know with that hold down position that E63M6 has, and there's another tank over there. But the position that they have kind of like peering options.
Yes. All right, but now we've got an interesting surround. RBIS is every direction, and they are going to be able to slow to stop the cap. Backsays takes a hit. Rude is going to start taking damage, and the light tanks are going to begin moving in.
See, this is the big problem with trying to cap on a map like Prokhorovka. Steps. It's so difficult to, because at any position in probably a 180-degree arc, you can be instantly stopped.
Yes, but here's the strategy that top tier are going for. It's a bait. All they want their opponent to do is close the distance, because if you stay at range, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to stop the cap sufficiently unless your opponent is just not playing right. Now, we have top tier moving on that group in the north. Gabriel and Sella are getting very, very low. Callus is low. There goes Sella. Gabriel will go down soon. There goes Callus. They're going to begin trading out, but we need to see top tier make a move and push into a direction as a unified group. Once that happens, top tier will come out ahead.
Yeah, not looking so good for RBIS as they've taken a lot of losses in the center, not been able to really close down. Coolhammer actually, I think, was really sporting a lot of the damage over there, and down goes every single RBIS tank. That's such a great bait, using, we've seen it time and time again, using the cap as bait, saying, hey, come at me. And the two tanks all the way in the back in the northeast or northwest region were able to properly, kind of move around and reflank the flankers, which is a really nice counter movement, counter-stepping to their opponents.
Isn't it just kind of beautiful how that works out? It's very easy to predict your opponent's response because there is really only one or two good responses that your opponent can make because time is not on their side. 3 tanks on cap with such a range between where your opponent is set up to defend and where they have to get to in order to really stop the engagement.
Yeah,
or to stop the cap.
I mean, it was so hard for the. I mean, look at this. Just look at the blue. Don't mind any of the attacks, anything. Just look at the positioning. You can see they're enclosing, and like, just inherent thoughts say, oh, blue should win right here. RBIS should definitely win because they had the better concave, but they were out concaved, and then they were committed a lot harder. And you saw them yet again, right down the center being partitioned, a east side and a west side partition of their concave, and they were just split in two, dissected, killed individually, and then, of course...
Yeah. And that's due to the terrain. The
Yeah.
terrain that you have all
right.
along that little section to the south of the cap. Because of how broken up it is, you have to bring everyone in through a very small area in order to have a real overmatch. Otherwise, all of those light tanks coming in, that beautiful concave, once you get closer and you look at the way all of the terrain is, how just absolutely insane the hills can be, you realize it's actually just a bunch of 1v1s that you're looking at. You're looking at starting that. But top tier did a better job. They grouped their tanks up and went after the ones, killed them, broke them apart just like you were talking about.
If you look, the T29s did an amazing job. Actually, let's just step into the score screen before we leave here. The T29s, these are tier 7 tanks. They're, in general, not supposed to be able to do a lot of damage, but, you know, it's spread out pretty even among all the tanks. That shows you all of them were working together. All of them were able to trade out hit points very nicely. And the other side, they got bursted down a lot of times. You know, it's a lot about damage allocation at the same time. When you look at that last battle, tanks were able to be eliminated by from RBIS, and top tier were able to keep their battle buddies alive.
Exactly. I think after this, RBIS looks like a team that they should maybe rethink their practice strategies. And then top tier, a team that, you know what? I think they were right in the pregame.
That's right.
Right in that interview. They have turned it around. It was just little things last week.
It's a 5-1 win against RBIS in the books for top tier. Congratulations to them. They are 1-2 for the division. Really looking forward to watching them, though, as the season progresses on, as they've shown immense skill in the first broadcast game. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, match number 2, which is Fun Gaming up against... Wait, I know this.
It's Elevate.
Elevate.
Yeah.
We'll be back. You're watching WGLNA.